All right, there you go.
There I go. I'm on my first.
You gotta hear it again.
Oh, I got to do it again? Okay. That's for my buddy Grant. Okay. Hi. How y'all doing? My name's David Singer. This is called We're Pulling the Gloves Off, and we're going to have some nice conversations every Thursday.
Some not so nice conversations.
No, or not so nice conversations. Thursday at 4:00. I appreciate this. I've never actually been the interviewer. I'm actually the interviewee. I think we want to put the disclaimer up. One of
yes, legal wants that
hello,
up there.
Hello, Michael Miller. Is the disclaimer up? Is that okay? Opinions expressed here are those of the host and guest, are not necessarily those of the community newspapers or its advertisers. Okay, so that's our disclaimer. Is that okay, Michael? Michael Miller, is that okay? Okay. Yeah, he says it's fine.
Wait, I'm getting some feedback.
Hello?
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm getting some feedback. There you go.
Anyway, the first thing, let's get a little history. This is former Mayor Eugene Flinn. I before we start talking to him, I want to go through a little history of his and my relationship, because there were a lot of rumors that I was either in his pocket or he was in my pocket. So why don't you tell them how kind of dysfunctional our relationship was for a while?
Yeah, it's been a real love-hate relationship. I mean, I remember I used to get these emails from you. I think it was in my first term, and I was very good friends. My wife was very good friends with somebody who worked under you, and I finally asked her, I said, what is the deal on this David Singer? I get the most caustic emails about budgeting and money and everything else, and she kind of gave me the lowdown on you, and that you had you know, your heart's in the right place, you do the right things, you are one of my favorite terms, an acquired taste. And then she promptly left for greener pastures and left you.
I think your wife thinks I'm an acquired taste too, from some of the things I've read that she's written.
Yeah, we've had some fun, but that's the thing. Let's be honest here in terms of, well, we're always honest. That's the funny part. Sometimes both you and I are far too honest, when we should just be patting people on the back, rubbing their shoulders, whispering in their ears, telling them everything's going to be all right, and taking that selfie with them. We're actually telling them the truth, and that gets us into trouble sometimes, because but let's recall, you were out there, we got along, we did a lot of work, but then you ran against somebody,
Tim Schaefer,
correct, who I was accused of being in pocket with him or related. I think they even made some remarks that somehow one of our parents was involved with another one's parents. These people in their rumors are just off the chain sometimes. So we jokingly referred to each other as blank half brothers there. And so, I
think it was Dumb and Dumber.
And I asked my mom, I said, do we know? And she said, yeah, you remember little Timmy. I mean, his dad was roommates with your dad back at University of Miami, and longtime family friends. And then, you don't always keep a word. So loyalty kept me there. Of course, that loyalty wasn't repaid in 2018 when he jumped into the race without ever calling me. But, I feel good and I can sleep at night. We'll see if Timmy can.
But the fact of the matter is, we have not always been.
That's right. I supported Timmy over you.
That's right, over me. And we
got very aggressive.
And we always have not been.
There were ads that were put out there. And, but you know what? When you got on the dais, and when I got on, when you joined me on the dais here, we were able to put those things aside.
Absolutely. And at 100%, because we were working for the betterment of the Palmetto Bay residents.
And we found our common ground, which were things like transparency, which again, we found out transparency is bad in Palmetto Bay. It's bad because, they'll twist transparency. You remember those emails that came out from that one so-called community group when minutes weren't posted right away, and, what are they hiding? And, why is our clerk not getting minutes up? And they were taking us to task for that. When was the last time you saw minutes posted?
Everything's very, very delayed.
So, but getting back to those things, we found common ground. We worked together. Yeah, you did some things that upset me. You reduced the time of the meeting to 11 o'clock and then tripled the size of our agenda with your transparency items, which I was fully on board with. But, and we worked through it. And then I'd have, one or two special council meetings, and then you'd hear the cry of all these special council meetings. But then how many did you guys have last year under the
we had more,
82 meetings.
We probably had more meetings last year when I was on the council than probably the 3 previous years combined.
So
It
if you
was
want to
just
find
crazy.
out what happened, can you go and you find a minute of them? Can you find
No,
minutes
the
anywhere?
transparency is still terrible.
Can you find resolutions? I don't think they've popped up any resolutions since February of 2019. And all these things are important because they're taking people to task for seeking public records. And I think that's really wrong.
I know before I was elected, I was spending an average of $3,000 a year in public records, and I'll be spending it again
and
now.
that's just criminal. And
Yeah.
that's one of the things, if we get to it tonight, I want to start talking about things. We're going to have to go to the charter. We're going to have to do some citizen initiatives. We're going to have to bring back the transparency because, find me a copy of the budget online right now. That's something that shouldn't be a public records request. That should be something that's freely accessible. And in fact, I think I'm going to go to the legislature this year and see if I can get somebody to sponsor the governor up there likes to implement uniform statewide laws. Why isn't every village, every town, every municipality required to post its minutes, its resolutions? And
Well,
maybe we
that
need a
goes
state law on
that goes to educating residents. I mean, if residents have to sit there and strain to find public records, they're just going to give up and not be
And I
involved in the
think they've got
process.
people basically giving up it now.
Yeah.
The election came down to different terms, renters going Hialeah. We know what that meant in that one race.
Yeah.
We really know what that code word was out there. And it really was battering and appealing to something that we really don't want to appeal to. So I've got to hand it to you. We had some fun, we had some arguments, but you and I disagreed on some things without being disagreeable. And if things got a little colorful sometimes, then so much the better. But if you're in this, I won't call it a game, but when you're in the business of government, you need to bring, if you're not seeing conflict going on in front of the council, then that means either the deal was cut or people are just sitting on that dais for the insurance benefits.
Hold that thought. Tommy, can you take my phone and do some magic?
Oh, do some magic with the phone.
Sorry, guys. It's the first time I've done this. Anyway, so elections were held. They're over with. Let's talk about the new council. Okay.
You and I are off the hook.
We're off the hook. Okay. So Karen Cunningham, mayor, her present job is a lobbyist for UTD. She's in her 6th year, right? Because she was council seat 1 for 4 years, 2 years into her mayorship. We have Lee Antellum, who's the brand new vice mayor. She works for Marlowe, Adler, Abrams, and Carl Gables. She's an attorney. I think she's a defense attorney, right?
Insurance defense attorney. Represents a lot of insurance companies.
Martha Matson, who's retired, has a doctorate. In my opinion, she should probably go back and ask for a refund from the school. Steve Cody was an attorney, is now a disbarred attorney.
Well, no. He's suspended. Usually
suspended
last
attorney.
A year.
I'm sorry, it's 7
that
years.
Was 11 years ago.
Okay, and we got Patrick Fiore, who's a property manager. Anybody on the council with any kind of budgeting or management experience, real estate experience, zoning experience, anybody there at all that you can think. Now, when I was on the council and you were on the council and John Dubois was on the council, you had a couple of business people on there that had some sort of business acumen. They had some sort of budgeting experience. They had some sort of zoning experience. Anybody there at all, do you think that can pick up the mantle and run with it for the betterment of the Palmetto Bay residents?
Well, I would say that, with John Dubois, yourself, myself, you had 3 people on there that have run businesses. And in many cases, even in law practices, some of the law firms probably had more in revenues than what this village does. But
I know my business that I run has a lot more revenue.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But the 3 of us have all hired people, fired people, managed people, quality managed people. We've made payroll. We've had to terminate people. We've had to not take checks to wait to make sure other people got paid. So we knew what it was like in the real world. I don't think there's anybody on this dais that has had any direct responsibility of having to make payroll, having to wait on there, having to, it's all been given to them or they've been under direction. But you know what? Let's that's a precursor. That's what's important there. And what's really strange is the three of us were also smart enough to allow staff to do their job.
Correct.
And so now what you've got is people that are substituting their knowledge, interfering, in my opinion, in a large degree with staff, making change orders. And that's why Franjo Road, I mean, it was moving until it was taken out of then manager Silva's
Okay,
hands.
so let's talk about management. So where we were 2 years ago, okay, and where we are now. When after Mayor Karen Cunningham got elected, you had a different village attorney, you had a different village manager, and you had a completely different dais, right? So in 2 years, basically, it's a completely new set of faces with no historical background, for the most part, on what's happened within the village.
That's very true. Now we're at the first point where you've got nobody that was involved in the creation of the village. Promises were made back then. And that's how I always ran the government. I mean, I'm always one to be progressive and to be innovative and to move forward. But again, you still get back to you have some core values. And one of the promises we made in incorporation was we could do so much more with the money that was there. We didn't have to raise taxes. Now look at all the taxes that have been raised since then. The new taxes.
No, even with the taxes, we're still running a deficit, but we'll get into that in a second. So now Mayor Karen Cunningham, she has her Queen's Court, right? She has everybody that she wanted on there. She's got the vice mayor she wanted on there. She got the District 2, she got District 1, District 3. She got the village attorney and the village manager. What is her excuse going to be over the next 2 years if she can't get this village running correctly and you can't balance the budget? Who is she going to blame, okay, if things do not turn around in the village?
Well, let's be honest here. Both Leanne and Steve have been handed something on a silver platter because the bar has been lowered in the last year so much by what's happened under her leadership or lack of, that it's going to be a bounce. It's just got to. Can it go lower? I mean,
once again, neither of them have any business experience at all.
They promised a budget based upon a refi of a bond. Within 2 weeks of that budget being passed, wasn't it 2 weeks?
It was 2 or 3 that we could not.
2 or 3 that. So you're telling me they didn't find out, there were no grumblings, that they didn't do any due diligence, that they didn't know? So they passed a budget that didn't even make it. Well,
they passed a budget with a $1.8 million deficit. And that $1.8 million deficit, I believe, was reduced by a $200,000 or a $300,000 savings in a bond. So this year, if you look at it, you could have a $2 million deficit. Last year, I think there was a $400,000 to $500,000 deficit. So you're looking at a $2.5 million deficit in 2 years. It's the first time in this village, I think, you can tell me if I'm wrong, because you've been involved longer than I have, that the village has ever run a deficit before.
We've never run a deficit, even under the Stanzik years. She cared about the budget. She worked hard. She did add some police officers, which is always a good thing. And our budget grew to support that. One of the things with Vice Mayor Dubois is he always accused our managers, Williams and N. Silva, of having a hero budget where you overestimated expenses and underestimated revenues. I think that falls right into the prepare for the worst and reap the best. But in those short, very time since I've left office, they've gone from the so-called hero budget to a zero budget. From hero to zero, as the song says. And I don't mean zero as in zero-based budgeting, but the problem is they've gone so deep now into empire building and hiring new employees. I mean, we used to have outsourced, and I hate to name names, but we used to have an outsourced grant writing system. They ate what they killed. They brought in, they were competitive and worked hard. You always had the chance to pivot and move over to whoever's hot as far as grant writing. And are we getting our dollars for the in-house grant writer at this point? What are we paying in salary net? The special events coordinator, we've cut when I say we, the current village administration is really, have they not cut the special events budget for regular people?
The special events budget, I think, for the entire year is $5,000.
I mean, we had it $300,000, I think,
Mhm.
in my first year back in 2015, or maybe it was for the 2016 budget. And that kind of budget can support a special events
Yeah.
coordinator, because you want to make
Well,
sure.
you can't have special events when you're running a 1.8. Let's go to a couple questions, because I want people, whether you like me or you don't like me, I want you to send me questions. So Robert, log in, if I remember, if I can see that. They seem knowledgeable. Why were they so soundly beaten at the polls? Now, good question, because most of the people in Palmetto Bay are not educated enough to know what's really going on. And it's almost like, in my opinion, it's almost like picking in Palmetto Bay, picking a king and queen for a high school.
It's a popularity
Yeah,
contest.
I mean,
It got down. And I think in my race, it was people didn't want me to
Yeah.
have a fourth term.
Well,
We're looking for
see,
a new
yeah.
direction. But was this the direction they wanted?
Well, 12 years of looking at your face is a little long.
Yeah, and that's,
You know.
so what do? I've just come back on this show, so give them some more time. But getting back to that, in all seriousness, the simple answers were rewarded. You and I fought hard on the Palmetto Bay Village Center, and I think we crafted a very good, I wouldn't call it a compromise. I think a plan to move that land. That, remember, we created, when we first incorporated that Palmetto Bay Village Center, and this is getting to your question, had developmental rights of, at one time, 1,400 units and $1.2 million in commercial, and it was nowhere near realizing the density that it had. And we wanted to desperately keep it something that was compatible with the area, because when they built it in the 80s, they were looking to throw things down south. Now we're
Correct.
looking to
Now
stop it down south. But going back to save the 22 acres, yes, I used to sit on the board and be active with the Miami Pine Rocklands group. I mean, that is my that's important to me, and preserving it. So I couldn't get the council to buy the land. I couldn't get the council to participate with the
Which, by the way, I'm all for buying the land. Those 22 acres have to be saved.
Yeah, I couldn't. And if you bought the 22 acres, those 85 units go right away.
Yeah,
because so
you're
going down,
you're going from 385 down to 3, and they probably have the rights to build 300.
Yeah, so but you can't get the council. I only got one other vote to go and buy it, and I think it was you.
And you had the eels, so you had 50%
they wouldn't go
of it
for eels. If you remember, I came up and in 2017 brought it, and instead of saying we'll participate with eels, which is a non-negotiable, you pay your 50%. But people don't recall and don't give me credit for the fact that we had Scott Silver in the Palmetto Bay Village Center actually working to get a grant to cover our half. At one point, we were going to end up paying 25% of, at that point, it was a $6 million value property. But my plan was to buy it, take it off. Then Stanzik plan came in, and it was for the first time, it was zoned Park and Rec. And she was going to roll it into the mixed use area, and they can dispute it all they want, but the zoning applications and everything dispute that. 41 units is a start in a fire station, and it was going to roll it into the village mixed use, which is 10 units an acre, which would have given it the vested rights. Ultimately, 22 acres times 10 units an acre, that's 220 units. So we had the move on it. We didn't have a choice, but you know what? They could just do the simple word traffic. Well, it's not a simple answer, but
no, I mean, it's not a simple answer. And the
it's
problem is,
since
it's not,
nowadays.
it's not a soundbite. It's not a simple answer. And the problem is now we're looking at another lawsuit. Okay. So you have that lawsuit.
Oh, actually, no, I don't think we are. I think that you've got a council now. I think you got a mayor. I think you got a vice mayor. I think you got a group of people that would just as soon let them build 41 units in there. I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh no,
if
they would be.
Up.
I think if they give them permission to build a 485 units on Old Cutler Road, they'll be run out of town.
Because remember that almost came to a vote during this pandemic, and it was pushed off. And the recommendation from staff was for 480 units here.
And by the way, that's after I passed a resolution, and I don't want to. I would rather
we passed an ordinance.
We passed an ordinance that the zoning had to be based on a traffic study. So we got them down to 375 from the 485. Because of the traffic study.
That's what we actually put in 2016, that we put chokeholds in there.
So anything over, getting to 22 acres and them building 375 units is just a huge issue, because that's where we were 2 years ago.
But here's going to be the fun part, and I'm going to say fun part because this is where feet are going to be held to the fire. An email from this woman, I don't even know if she really existed, that they ran on that one community group talking about, oh, well, it seems awful suspicious about everything that was going on in 2016 was somebody's hands in somebody's pocket. And I wrote that person back after I left office, and I sent him a blog post because, you know, I put I'm out there, I'm transparent. I put everything out on my blog, and I put out there that, remember, you were there. We spent money. John Dubois spent money to have John Herron, the at one time interim village attorney,
Great attorney,
write that ordinance to rescind the 2016 ordinance. Remember, he had the votes. It passed on first reading 3-2. You, he, and Karen voted for that. Larissa and I voted against it, and they never brought it back. So we spent all that money to repeal it. So now it's going to come up for a zoning hearing. The question is going to be, if they didn't want to touch the 450, why did they not pass that? I mean, even when I was gone in 2018,
that's all going to come.
The votes.
That's all going to be fleshed out really, really soon.
Well, and my question is going to be now to Cody and to tell him, are you all going to pick up that rescinding ordinance and get rid of that ordinance in 2016? You've got the plan there. I think I even posted it on my blog.
Listen, anything over the 370, they're basically giving rights that the developer
because
should not
you've
have.
got to take it at the time of the traffic.
That's right.
And they waited. And when they originally got those rights, traffic has exploded. And
that's right.
And there was.
So they should do another traffic study. Okay, so let's go. Let's move to present day. So the Queen's got her court, right? She got everybody she wanted on the dais. Same, as I said, the village manager, the village attorney. What are the two biggest issues right now that Palmetto Bay is facing, in your opinion?
Well, they've got a new manager in there. I'd like to see something out of the manager. I'd like to see, they've got to rein in the spending, because again, every year you do a new budget. Budgets
okay, don't forget that 51% of the budget goes to police. So for every dollar that the residents pay, Dade County, only 12 cents goes to the village of Palmetto Bay.
But that's the same for Pinecrest. That's the same for
Cutler I know, Bay. I get it. But so tell me, financially, you have 49% of the budget, right? That needs to be looked at, because you can't do anything with the police. Police are the number one reason people want to incorporate.
They do a darn good job,
and they do a great job. I love the police.
I'm very proud of having been the person that negotiated that contract, because it's been the greatest thing for this village. I think. Okay, so hold on, wait. Let me do a couple questions here. I'm gonna be moving around a little. What's the status of the mega sidewalk? The mega sidewalk is going underground. Yeah, there you go. It's moving forward. Excuse me. It's moving forward. We'll know something in January. Hopefully they've changed it around where they won't be taking a lot of residents' green area, and they won't be tearing down residents' fences. What is the status of Luxcom, and how did it go so badly? Well, in fact, Dexter Layton did a really, really, really good. There's 3 lawsuits with Luxcom. Dexter Layton, the attorney that was forced out by Karen Cunningham, did an excellent job in defeating one of the lawsuits and actually winning an appeal against Luxcom. He won the cert action, yes. Yes. So the only thing they can do is go through the Third District Court of Appeals to try to get it reversed. But there's 2 other lawsuits. One's a Burt J. Harris Act lawsuit, and one is another lawsuit which can't really detail something about. They're all very different, distinct lawsuits. Correct. And this village has been very good about accruing lawsuits, like some people collect cats. Well, the good thing is now they have 2.5 attorneys on the council. I mean, Cody's a half attorney, right? Because he's not allowed to practice, but he does have a basis in law. I'm sure he'll have opinions. Okay, he'll have opinions. Actually, I'm looking forward to. I'd like to see him actually assert himself on some of these. So we'll see what his opinions are. Let's see what else we got. Thank you, Kelly, for saying we're awesome. Scott Miller, when are we going to visit the new Palmetto Bay Farmers Market? I haven't been there, Scott. Scott, I'll go there with Gene this weekend. One of the most disturbing things I had a guy troll me on Twitter after our Jonathan's Day, saying I didn't spend enough time greeting all the vendors that were there. No, I was out there with the kids and with a lot of the things.
I love
And
farmers
for that
markets.
troll, I hope he's very happy with the fact that since I left office, that event hasn't occurred at all. So
I like community events like that. As long as the taxpayers aren't paying for it, the taxpayers aren't paying for it. We're getting a minimal amount of money from Scott, and it's nice to bring all the residents
we have
together.
a responsibility to those that aren't as that need assistance, and I know that's not popular sometimes, and I know our government's very conservative. I know I was a Democrat in the mayor's race. I was running against someone that was Republican, and or at least a Republican at the time. I think the party affiliation kind of became a matter of convenience, and that might have changed. But I've always had those core values, and there's certain things we can do. We don't give things away. We level the field, though. And sometimes you have to say no too, and I think that gets back to
we
budget.
we went back and I changed the ordinance where we couldn't use taxpayer dollars to give to charities. I mean, my theory's always been, if one of our residents wants to give to a charity, God bless them. I give a lot of money every year to charities. I think everybody should, but I don't believe in collecting your taxpayer dollars so I can determine which charity is best to give to and which charity is not best to give to.
I remember one of the best blog posts from that South Dade Matters blog, and again, to this day, I'm still not sure who was responsible for it. Though again, everybody loves pointing their fingers at me. I wish I could.
No, you don't write that well.
Yeah, no, that's very true. But they were talking about, the elected officials, how they like to, and I took it to heart, they're giving away other people's money, OPM, other people's money.
I know. I mean,
and then they want to act like they're this benefactor, shower me with affection. I've given away this park that the people paid for. I've given this away. I've given you money that I had nothing to do. Compare the.
Okay, so let's go back to my question because we got off on tangent. Two biggest issues. One's financial, right? We have $11 million in reserves in Palmetto Bay. After the last year and this year, we'd be down to, and I could be wrong, it could have been 9. I got 9. We'll be down to $2.5 million. So it'll be $6.5 million. I don't think that we've had reserves that low in 6 or 7 years. I think that's a very low point in reserves. And one of the things they look at for bonding is how much money you have in reserves, and can you run a village if there's a crisis. And I think that the problem is that when they look at our reserves, that our bond rating has a chance of going down, and we will not be able to refinance. I know one thing: as long as the reason they didn't get the bond refinancing is because of the lawsuit with Luxcom. They looked at it and they said, we cannot refinance your bond when you're in major litigation, because they looked at that litigation.
It's a contingent.
It's a contingent liability. So they looked at that litigation saying it could be up to $21 million. So they wouldn't refinance the bond. So now, on the other hand, is if we keep reducing our reserves because we're not running a balanced budget, as you can tell, I'm very fiscally conservative. We're still not going to be able to refinance that bond, and it's going to still cost the taxpayers another $200,000 to $300,000 a year in taxes, because the credit's not going to be there. The reduction in the interest rate.
I'm just worried. We put on a lot of, we worked hard. I've been fighting since I think it was 2007 to get the woods off 168th Street. I'm worried about that property going back to the county. And if it goes back to the county, it's going to be surplus and developed. And maybe that's what this council wants, is to blame the county for taking it back and putting more homes on there, which will be more tax revenue rather than the expense of a park. I mean, we fought hard for that and nothing's happened with it. It's still a seed source of all kinds of invasive species. We still don't have things like, where is the artwork that was supposed to go in place that's been sitting out there for 2 years now at 168th and 82nd Avenue traffic circle. It's just it's disconcerting. I don't think people know this because they can't go back and see anything, because you can't find the resolutions, you can't find the minutes. You have to watch it. Who the heck wants to watch a 3 or 4 hour video to find out what happened? we're all
we
busy
can
people in
listen.
Palmetto
We're going to
Bay.
have a whole conversation about the state because I got numbers with me. If we have time, we're going to go to the state of. We're going to go to the state of the village, and I'm going to tell you how the numbers came in and how they were spent. Okay, so I promised everybody if I started a talk show that I was going to answer everybody's questions. Lisa Myers, yes, it's a vague answer. I will next week have 2 people from the Department of Miami-Dade Department of Transportation on our program, and we will get a more valid answer for you in regards to the sidewalk because they're in charge of the sidewalk. Miami-Dade County is. Linda Robinson, 100% agree with you. It's sad to see all the funds we got evaporating. I can't tell you. I've tried to be very fiscally conservative with a group of people who do not understand it's not their money, it's the residents' money that they're spending, and they're penny wise, pound foolish. Okay, so one of the biggest issues is financial. What's the second biggest issue?
I think transparency is a big issue. I think just as far as operations, I think parks are a big issue in serving our population. I think the general maintenance of the village is beginning to suffer. I think you call it leakage in business as far as you just watch money leak. This is a council that not only hasn't been able to get Frangio Road up and done.
Now, Frangio Road's a disaster.
But look how long that bridge has taken. And when did they start that bridge at Coral Reef Park? I mean, I think we built Village Hall in shorter time than that bridge.
I think some of those buildings that are in the background were built quicker than the bridge.
And did we even need that bridge? That bridge was always on our master plan, but that was one thing I always kept pushing off, that and just frivolously redoing ball fields. I mean, I've pushed hard for real things that people are really going to see in terms of, I'd like to see that pier back at that we worked so hard on getting $500,000 for. I mean, this is a village government that has gone 3 years now or 2 years now for about $3.5 million, $3.75 million in grants from Tallahassee for the community center, for not the community center, but the Coral Reef Park building, and that they call an educational center and a multimodal center. Despite the fact that 1.8 million were given back after I left office the first time in 2010,
because it wasn't used,
because they never built phase 2, which was the parking garage.
Let's talk about the pole park fields. I think they have $1 million in the budget this year to rebuild the Coral Reef Park ballpark fields, the baseball fields. And what's funny is nobody uses them because the village actually pushed Howard Palmetto Quarry League out of Coral Reef Park. So the ballpark fields are basically just used by dads and moms with their kids to practice. There's no other sports teams that come into Coral Reef Park to use those ball fields. A lot of kids come in for soccer. Nobody's coming in for baseball, and they're going to spend up to $1 million to redo the fields. Somebody needs to explain to me why we're spending $1 million there instead of building a rec center that we had to tear down at Coral Reef Park with that same $1 million.
Well, it gets better on that rec center. Do you remember in 2018 during the elections, you had Dawn and you had Marcia, and both of them came forward with so-called experts saying that we can simply repair that building. Do not knock that down. And they fought us knocking that building down. It was red tagged.
It was red tagged
well over a year. And but it can be fixed. But boy, did things change after elections, and afterwards it got knocked down, didn't it? Now,
absolutely.
Did they use Don? Was he a useful idiot? Did they use him for a purpose, or did they lie to him afterwards? And just something weird there that they, his voice is so important. And didn't he tell you? Didn't you get in conflict with him? He had an engineer.
Yeah,
he went into that building, and the engineer certified it could be rebuilt. And that was what we heard
once
from
a building,
Marcia.
Technically, once a building's red tagged, it's got to come down. And that building was in terrible shape. Marcia brought in somebody from out of state who had no idea what the building code was in Miami-Dade County, and started giving opinions on a building that he doesn't have. I don't think he had a license to practice down here, but he was not from Miami-Dade County, so he had no idea.
But the point was made that they were very adamant. I know, very inanimate, but they were absolutely not budging that building should be rebuilt, not knocked down. And then once the election was over, well, you don't see any resolutions about it because the resolution's not up. You won't find any minutes about the meetings because the minutes aren't up. So we just have to listen to their spin that they put out on their propaganda emails that go out there. But to me, it's important because we put in place, it's all about vision for the village. And maybe that's really the second issue. There's no vision. We didn't hear any debates during this round of elections. So, what's funny is you had people, I heard people didn't vote against you. They voted against you because of the bridge issue. But yet, doesn't your opponent, who the now councilman, doesn't he live on one of the streets that's pushing hardest for that bridge?
Yes.
Does anybody else think that maybe that wasn't really
Listen,
disclosed?
I know why I lost. I lost because I'm a little abrupt, and I'm definitely honest. I'm definitely honest. So I get it. I'm not a typical politician, and I have no problem losing for that. I have no problem losing in that regard. As a matter of fact, it's actually beneficial for me because I get to have a talk show like this and bring people on like you and have an honest and open conversation, which you can't do.
But what I would like
office.
to do is sit here and promote my business where I sit there. And if you've got an issue with your insurance company, I do a lot of first party litigation work.
Okay.
So
wait, Michael
if
Miller,
you need help with your insurance, see me, Recovery Law.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Wait.
Oh, wait, I think I have Michael Miller on the phone.
Oh, wait.
No, we
if
can't.
If you don't straighten out, I'm going to come in there and straighten you all out. Oh, here he is.
There we go. We cannot talk about your business.
A little Giuliani there. Wait, what was that?
There goes. We cannot talk about your business. Okay.
I just want to know.
No, the hand was somewhere.
You
else.
have to come on the screen.
Okay, so
you got to come onto the green screen so we can.
Okay, so I want to know what that brown stuff that was running down the side was. That what was that?
When you reach the top and it overflows, it starts trickling down.
What a great picture! Hey, David Singer, you having a good time?
I'm having a great time.
All right,
absolutely a great time.
Shave, and he got dressed today.
I got dressed today.
What's the name of your show?
Gloves Off with David Singer.
And when is it?
It's every Thursday at 4 p.m. And by the way, just to let you know, if you're a vendor out there and you want to advertise on my program, we will make sure that you get a spot in. Okay. And all the proceeds go to the community newspaper. You didn't pay me for that plug. All the proceeds go to the community newspaper, and they promised me they donate them to a charity of my choice.
Who is that masked man back
And here
there?
we go, the founding mayor of Palmetto Bay. Here he is, ready to rock and roll again.
It just breaks my heart to see the way things are going right now. It really does.
There's a guy named Epstein. All right, what's his first name?
Jason?
No.
Which
Marcus?
one?
The transplant guy.
Oh,
Jeffrey.
yeah, Jeffrey the Epstein. Yeah.
He did a lot of work right over here for me years ago.
And I'm going to charge him.
I would highly recommend him.
I'm going to charge him. I'm going to charge him for this plug. Okay. So my issue is my second issue. Okay.
But vision, I would say vision.
Okay.
Because everything's done ad hoc right now, and it's reacting. It's covering.
Well,
and that's why you have a budget.
It's not. First of all, it's not the community vision. It's Karen Cunningham's vision. Don't. This is a very This is going to be very interesting because everything that's going to be happening is going to be Karen Cunningham's vision with her Queen's Court making decisions.
Yeah,
not
I've got
necessarily.
to say, we can be a little self-destructive sometimes with our honesty. It's not her. It's the residents. They are not.
Well, the residents aren't involved, so they
aren't
know.
involved, and they're getting what they voted for.
So let me tell you something. So I was talking to one of the Miller brothers. I can't tell you which one. Okay, and I was.
I won't let him say which one.
I don't want to get in trouble. So I was asking him an honest question last week. I said, "Look, you cover a lot of different municipalities. What? How many municipalities, Tommy? 11 different.
The bird. He's the
11,
bird.
11. Okay, the bird.
The bird.
11 different municipalities. Okay. Are there any municipalities that have any issues or drama like the village of Palmetto Bay?
Are there any of those municipalities that
Okay.
sit there and continue to point fingers?
Okay. Well, I want to tell you what was said. One of the Miller brothers said to me, honestly,
you got a 50% chance.
If you add up all the drama with all those municipalities, it does not come close to the drama in Palmetto Bay and the problems we have in drama. I said, how is that possible? He goes, for some reason, you guys have more drama and more problems than any municipality that we cover. It's absolutely amazing.
It's funny because we don't. At least as of the last budget that I passed, and even all the budgets for the 4 years I was out of office, you pass the budget, you let staff follow the budget, and you came back the next year. You made tinkering in it. You kind of shifted some plans. You got some things done. You had room for other things. And this was kind of like the first time we've ever had any councils kind of go off script with the budget. Oh, well, we're going to spend that here, spend that there. They budgeted what, $5,000 for special events this year, and special events include the State of the Village, doesn't it?
Yeah, we can.
So what did they spend this year on
So
that?
okay, so let's. I got this paperwork today.
Oh, and by the way, for the government that didn't want to meet live and wanted to continue meeting by Zoom, and recently passed a resolution to continue to have Zoom meetings, they sure didn't.
Okay,
mind
so this is
they don't mind having the live events if there's a camera present.
This was a virtual special events, okay, for the State of the Village. We spent $12,000. I'm rounding up.
$12,000 for a TV show.
For a TV show, okay. We got in sponsorships of $11 million. No, not 11. I'm sorry, 11. It looks like $11,000.
Yeah, but the question with that is,
wait,
what else was that $11,000 that didn't go to the 4th of July event this year?
Wait, I'm not done yet. The problem is that within the charter, I think it's within the charter, okay, or within one of the ordinances, if you and I ran for public office and we took $1,000, okay, from a vendor who did work for the village, that vendor was not allowed to do any work for the village anymore. For a certain, do you remember that rule? For a certain amount of time. I think it was 2 years or whatever. Okay, so we have vendors that are giving money to the state of the village, okay, who actually do work for the village. So basically what we're doing
buying favors
is we're buying favors, and we're still taking taxpayer dollars, okay, to pay for the state of the village.
Yeah, because that donation is not pulling it out of their pocket.
That donation
that's built into the contract.
So that donation is basically coming from village residents. So it's not like 90% was covered, because the village residents are still paying for it one way or the other.
Now, to be very clear, during some of my State of the Village, well, I think during all the State of the Village, Dr. Feller had arranged for donations from Baptist Hospital, but they have a huge community commitment they need to meet.
Well, Baptist Hospital doesn't.
Baptist doesn't do business.
Baptist does not do business.
Baptist is,
with the village, but I would say over 50% of the donations came from vendors who did business with the village, and I think that's kind of that really circumvents, okay, the rules that we put in place to make sure that there weren't any favors given by anybody on the council in the future.
But it's even worse than that, David. It got to be a very petty government. I mean, you were a big proponent of this pier, and you got outvoted. Now I know
they brought it back.
I know they brought it back. Did they pass it this time? Did the votes flip? Because we don't know, because
it's not on
minutes. There's no resolutions. There's no real talk about what's happened.
So that was one thing that was interesting.
But that was despite you, and that was despite me, because I had laid the groundwork. We got 50% of that paid for. But let me make my point on that. We've got some good things coming up. They're participating. We don't even have our own toy drive this year. We're just adopting the county police's drive through Doral. We used to do our own. One socially distant event that we could have is that boat parade, which was always a fan favorite and was developing. I think one point we had 16, 18, maybe even 21 boats. I don't recall offhand, and usually I do. But I remember that Reiner and Noel Shale, we collected hundreds of cans in a. That was a great
event.
And
I was never allowed to go on that
last year. There was 4 boats in it, and 2 of them were police boats.
Correct.
So are we going to do that this year? That's a good socially distant thing. Why is that being cut? That didn't cost anything. Maybe the cameras, maybe the photo ops aren't as good at night. I don't know, but it was always a fun event. It was always good to see people participating. I'm still getting emails from people asking, is it going to happen this year? But you know what? Is it, or is it not going to happen? Is it just something going to be thrown together so that they can say it happened?
We'll go back to my original statement. If you don't have money and you're losing $2.5 million, okay, you can't spend money on special events. I can assure you that there's no way we're going to have a 4th of July or if they have a 4th of July this year, they're going to have to get vendors to. I mean, who can the village afford to drop $50,000 for a 4th of July event, or $70,000 for a 4th of July event this year, when they're $1.8 million or $2 million in the hole? How do you sit there and explain that to your residents? How do you tell your residents, excuse me, your taxes have increased, 3 taxes, your real estate taxes, your utility taxes, your water and sewer taxes this year, 3 taxes, but we're still having events, and your taxes are going to increase next year too, and we're in the hole $2 million.
But you can't come to any events, because remember, the State of the Village said it was supposed to be virtual, and then what did we find out afterwards? There were people there.
There were people there.
So who were there? The favored people? Was it there was food bought? I mean, I'd like to know who was there, and did it qualify? Did we have 5 council members present at an event where the general public was excluded because they were told it was virtual, and I'm sure they had no access?
Listen, I'm very happy. Honestly, I'm very happy it was virtual.
Oh, no,
I mean,
it was appropriate. I wanted
serious...
to take it virtual in years past and got fought on that. What was it? 2016, I wanted to take it virtual and do that. And I actually look at Zoom. I think Zoom is, well, I don't want to give credit to just Zoom, but whether it's Zoom, Team, Skype, I think these platforms have been absolutely wonderful, and they should be used to increase participation. Because again, I was participating in the Ludlam Trail meeting. It used to be you'd have to go to the Killian auditorium, Killian High School auditorium, and squeeze 200 to 300 people in there, and then you're parking in and out, and people are getting aggravated there. There were over 500 people that participated in that meeting virtually, and you didn't have to. You could just turn it off when you were done and walk into the other room. It's a wonderful thing. There's things you can do with it, and I think this village is currently missing a chance to really add to the participation. I mean, I'd like to see a good town hall meeting out there. And when was the last time
I can tell you,
remember, we had some good town hall meetings.
This is one of my problems is we used to have the State of the Village at Village Hall, and it was shifted over, and it was more of a party than it was a state of the State of the Village. And I've gone through 5 or 6 State of the Village, and the whole type idea of the State of the Village is to say, what are we going to do next year? How are we going to rectify the problems? What's our plans? And give some future look, okay, into what's going to happen over the next year, what I want to get accomplished. Okay, you sat there and you watched the video, and what it was self-grandizing, you know the word, and giving out plaques and awards to everybody else. That's
bread
not
circus.
Yeah, that is not what a State of the Village is for.
I remember one of the things, the biggest State of the Village I was ever involved in was at the Palmetto Bay Village Center. I think the count was 837 people, not that I'm keeping count. But I had people walking out saying, I didn't know all this was going on. And that was the purpose. Yes, you do thank the people that worked hard during the whole year. But I'd love to see, the village used to have my old State of the Villages, the texts online. I think Stansics were online. I wonder if any of those are online anymore, and if any of the current ones are on there. I heard that there was a credit taken for 1 unit an acre in the CERT, which is just part of the story as far as Luxcom. But no thanks were given to Dexter. How about giving an award to Dexter?
No, Dexter did a great job defending. Dexter Layton, one of the best attorneys.
There was another example. Dexter came on while I was out of office between 2010 and 2014. He wasn't my pick. And, he wasn't exactly my favorite person. We were on the other sides of the political aisle. And, my person had been taken out while I was out of office. And I came back and I inherited Dexter. And you know what? It was a beautiful, beautiful professional relationship. And I think he and I have the utmost professional respect for each other. Yes, in private, we'd have some very robust discussions. But I think we did some great work. Remember, we got all the Palmer cases settled.
I don't think I know of one case that Dexter lost working for the Village of Palmetto Bay, and he was unceremoniously dumped, which they said he retired and everything, and you and I both know that's BS.
But he's going to be very active for a retired attorney.
He's very active, and he's won a case now. He won the case, the first lawsuit against Luxcom. He defended the appeal, and I'm sure if he goes to the 3rd District Court of Appeals, he'll win that. That makes him a very, very good attorney.
He is.
Okay. And he teaches law school at UM, I mean, the guy's got a great pedigree. Okay. But this is one of the actions that was taken, 2 years ago, because he didn't necessarily agree with some of the actions that the mayor wanted to take.
Well, it's funny, and actually, it's not funny. You go back and look at some of the litigation that started. So the litigation, in fact, right on point is, and I took at the litigation, and every now and then I'll blog about it. But remember the lawsuit that everybody's in a rush to file on the four-way stop over there with the traffic circle of 174th and 87th? Go look and see what's happened with that.
That has gone absolutely nowhere.
I think in May of 2000.
But you know what? I'm going to have next week on this program. Next week's very good program. I'm going to have Frank Guymere and Alice Bravo from Miami-Dade Transit, and we're going to be discussing this transit situation in Palmetto Bay, Cutler Bay, Homestead, and the overall plans. Okay. For that Dade County corridor. So make sure you watch that.
Well,
I'm sure there's going to be a lot of good information out there for people. I will make sure I bring up the sidewalk on 136th Street. I just wanted to give a plug to next week's show.
And my position is, I don't care what they say, those shared paths are dangerous for cyclists.
I've given my opinion.
I could go into that. But every accident I've seen involving cyclists on Old Cutler Road have been those actually using the shared path there. People pull right through them as if they don't exist to get to the edge of the road. If you're traveling in the wrong direction, people look to, if you're turning right to go north on Old Cutler Road, you're looking to your left when you make a turn. If a bicyclist is rolling down the street, he thinks you're holding because you have the right of way. The cyclist has the right of way. Nope, those cars come right out. I've seen people on skates get hit. So it's not just the cyclists, and plus the fact you can't compare the maintenance of a shared path with what they do for the roadways. No. And finally, when you think about it,
also tree roots and everything else.
Yeah,
and you don't have that same problem
what do they call them? Root snakes, because they go through there and they pop up
everything.
But actually who loses most? It's the drivers, because with the bike lanes, you're required by law to use them. You have to be there. You can be ticketed. Now, what's going to happen at 136th Street? I'm going to continue to ride on the road because there's predictability, there's quality of the road. And quite frankly, I don't have to worry when I'm hammering it down at 20 to 25 miles an hour. I don't have to worry about, somebody that's jogging or walking with the headphones on that doesn't hear me calling out, or that has the extendable leash with their dog and they're over here and their dog's over there and they're creating a barrier. I don't have to worry about that. It's not safe for them. It's not safe for me. I'll put myself into the road to save them and make them more comfortable where they are. But the drivers lose that extra 4 feet of space to have. Now they have the
my whole problem with that situation, and that everybody will agree with me, is the residents on 136th Street weren't given enough notification.
They were given no notification. They were promised a resident-centric government.
They were no notification. None of the doors I knocked on, nobody knew about the path. I think the information will get out there a little bit more easily now, and so if people want to speak up, they'll speak up.
Well, I guess two quick things to say is, number one, don't curse at the cyclist that remains riding on 136th Street, because they will still be legally entitled and it will be the safest place for them to ride. So you're going to hear, why are we spending millions of dollars on a path that cyclists won't use? And that is a good question.
Well, they want to put a path down Farmer Road and the residents don't want it.
Well, and I want to know too, I got $1 million TAP grant for the bike lanes, and you tried to get those started. The bike lanes on 82nd Avenue, people didn't want them in the Manglewood area. So what's going to happen to that money? Are we going to give back $1 million, or are we going to put a shared path down 82nd Avenue?
I mean, I never understood why the people didn't want bike lanes down Manglewood.
They actually look nice when you get done with doing the. Look at the crosswalk you and I worked on, and it got left where it is. And I was actually surprised over the last 2 years, despite me, it wasn't all prettied up. Maybe it was just waiting for Leanne to get in there to do something with it. But quite frankly, it's. But the final thing is, I want to call out our mayor, Daniela Levine-Cava, for something. And when in front of the TPO, in front of the county, she tried to put in that compromise plan to run the Metro Rail extension down to 211th. Pinecrest may be opposed to it, by a 3-2 vote. They thought, they have 2 Metro Rail stations. We can eat cake down south. But Palmetto Bay and Cutler Bay, I haven't seen any fight out of the council members for Metro Rail. But I know we have the newly elected commissioner, District 9, Keone, who is still committed to rail. And I'd like to see, at least for her as mayor, as a person who really controls the budget and controls the county, to bring back the plan that she couldn't get a second on at that one meeting, to at least bring Metro Rail down to 211.
Well, you also don't forget you have Daniela Higgins, who has now been appointed, and she will be on. She promised me. She's promised me she'd be on my program. I'm trying to find a slot for her to come in, because I'd like to know what she's planning on doing as far as transportation. That's one of the biggest issues, which leads me to another problem, and we haven't talked about it in a while because of COVID-19. Eventually, COVID-19 is going to subside, and we're going to go back to the transportation issues in Palmetto Bay, where it takes somebody a half an hour to drive a mile. And we seem to be stuck for 7 years trying to rectify the situation. And everybody's like, okay, Singer, well, you voted against the 87th Avenue Bridge. And I'll go back, because Grant asked me this question. He goes, have you changed your opinion on that bridge? And the other day, and I said, no, what I want to do is I want an all-inclusive plan to include 4 bridges, some circles on Old Cutler Road, and try to make it so not one neighborhood is hurt while the other neighborhoods get benefits. So when is that actually going to occur? And why has it been on the back burner? And why is nobody on the village council pushing the issue? I know John Dubois wanted to push the issue if he was placed as council's commissioner, District 8, because that was something that he had talked to me about. But nobody is sitting there pushing to sit there and rectify a situation that is really going to rear its ugly head in the next year.
It's just ticking, and it's going to hit all at once. And you're right. And this was a good time to do construction. Construction's always been an essential business. And when you talk about, as mayor, I would have loved to have had a low traffic time to really address traffic construction, because you're detouring a lot less traffic.
You see them. That's one of the reasons you see them out all cutting all the trees now. You see FP&L doing all the trees all over Dade County because there aren't as many people on the road.
And it's a good time to do things. But getting back to that, why were we almost set to do all those traffic planning stuff, going from plans to implementation in January of 2019? It all got taken off the table to a large degree, I think, to spite me or to look. And what's funny is they can't get it back on board. Now they're talking about 2023. Do you know how?
Yeah, you can't wait.
2023, we're going to wait.
You can't wait to 2023. You're going to have bumper to bumper traffic on Old Cutler Road.
But you've got a council that sits and takes it, and then they don't want it on there, and they aren't telling this. You didn't hear that at the State of the Village, did you?
No. I'm telling you, the only thing I saw at the State of the Village was a lot of proclamations and a lot of gifts going out to people.
And that's not what the charter really wants.
Pomp and circumstance.
It's supposed to be talking about the state of the village. Yeah. But, winners win history.
Oh, hey, Cindy. We love Cindy. Bring Metro Rail South to Cutler Bay as phase 1, then extend the Homestead.
That's exactly what
that has always been, always been the plan.
And, I guess I should have been back at home kissing babies than all those times we spent down at the commission fighting for Metro Rail. And, we're fighting for the future here. And,
Cindy, by the way, I'd like you to be a guest on the program whenever you want to come on. We can talk about all things Pinecrest and Palmetto Bay.
And you can come and talk about my law practice and first party insurance litigation. I make sure that you get what you pay for with your homeowner's insurance.
You're so fun. You owe me $150 for the plug. You can give it to Michael Miller.
Litigation.
So, I'd be remiss by not saying Happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah
to all my brethren out there. I actually thought Hanukkah started yesterday, but apparently it starts tonight.
My nephews, Happy Hanukkah. Happy Hanukkah to, my relatives.
Your relatives?
I have. We go back.
I guess the last subject is COVID-19. And how do you think it's affecting our day-to-day life in Palmetto Bay
Well,
and
for
South Day?
people like me, I took I figure I took about $125,000 bath with COVID, with hearings being canceled and everything else. And it's coming back, and some of it's going to be made up. Some of it's just deferred income. Some of it will be, but I was reading an article, and I need to move it to my blog because I felt it's very interesting. Bloomberg did an article talking about those businesses that could, people that were in the tech industry. Law was, I think, number 2. Tech and information was number 1. Architecture's on there as well. And by the way, I didn't know until this campaign that being an architect was evil, but whatever. I mean, I guess it's whatever your opponent does when you control the narrative. But anyway, going back to, we've all adapted and been able to adapt. But the thing I feel the worst for is people that are in the service industry. My dry cleaner. I mean, I wear outfits by the hour. I'll have a hearing and
I don't see how. I don't see how.
Well, they're closing in Palmetto Bay. The one next to Lots closed. I still really don't go out to eat. I don't feel safe enough to go out to eat because remember, I'm very fortunate to have an elderly mother, and so I don't want to burst her bubble and bring anything. So I want to be very careful here. And
I'll tell you because I'm in the business, right? So the devastation that I've seen, daycares. Okay, absolutely daycares. Because you have to limit the amount of kids in your daycare to about 1/4 of what you had, but you still have the same staff.
And that's even if they had the need, because a lot of people
are home. So daycares. Somebody thought this was funny the other day, but I said anybody who prints menus for a living. Because I assure you that business is never coming back.
I'll tell you, I like that. You and I talked about that. I'd love to be able to go in and just look at the menu on my phone, because we talked about that earlier, Bertie, over there, about the I'm not going to mention that restaurant, but you had to go wash your hands after handling the food was good, but when you're dealing with a lot of stuff.
So there's been a lot of businesses that have got
dry
hurt.
Cleaners. Restaurants, you wonder, like the typical takeout restaurants probably have actually.
I order a lot of
pizza,
food at home.
Chinese food probably even doing better because they've institutionalized this. They were ready to go. But are you going to go out to Elaine's? You're there for the presentation, for the dining out, so it's had to hit them hard. I hope that they continue to make it, and look forward to being able to go back and visit a lot of those restaurants.
Okay, so my pet peeve about COVID-19 is people who refuse to wear masks.
I think mine right here.
I think it is so irresponsible for people to sit there and say, I can't wear a mask because I can't breathe in it. And I'm thinking to myself, I was reading a book the other day about the greatest generation. That's the people that, were World War II and what they fought and what they went through, and when they came home, what they had to deal with. If some of these people who complain about the masks were back there in the greatest generation, they wouldn't survive. They just wouldn't. I mean, anybody who is that narcissistic that won't wear a mask because they feel it's too binding, or you can't breathe, or it doesn't work, wear a mask and help stop COVID. It's not that big of a deal. It really isn't.
Well, it's kind of sad. We're all busy getting the sports back up and running, but what about the little guys that were out there selling the peanuts and all that? They don't have those side hustle jobs going now to help their family. Or maybe they're being taken care of by the team. I sure hope they are, because when you figure, I'm sure that all those stadium employees probably don't come up to half a cost of a starting player. But all that money goes out for that, and it gives people the impression that everything's normal. We can go outside, and I think our priorities are totally askew on a lot of this. I mean, I love sports as much as everyone else, although I tend to be more into participating in things like cycling or golf or things like that than I am to go watch somebody else do what I should be out doing.
Let's wrap this up.
Do we? Because he just left the room again.
Hello, Michael.
The cat's away.
Michael says to wrap it up. So to wrap it up is the mayor has her court.
No excuses.
No excuses for the next 2 years.
And the bar has been lowered, so everything's going to look like a balance.
Okay. We need to figure out how to get the finances together with her group. You need to figure out when traffic starts again during the summer, because I'm sure people will be going back to work. They should have a plan. You know, some of this litigation should be settled and gone away.
Well,
Right.
and expectations are created. I want to know why that even came forward. You know, when I left office, we were talking about 1 unit an acre, and that's it. So why did a offer even come forward, and it even vetted just to aggravate people, of 147 and houseboats and, you know, spreader party sections? I'm joking about the last one, but you know, all the other stuff that went in there. Why, you know, shouldn't the marching orders simply be that there will be 1 unit an acre? Let's not create any expectations.
Well, the problem is that's what that was the first lawsuit that they actually lost, was on the one per acre, because they thought that was unjust to simplify it. So the next lawsuit will be the Burt J. Harris, which will be the bigger one, that they're claiming a $21 million in loss on the property.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. I mean, you know, I've blogged about that as well. I mean, I think, you know, I have a lot of people, I've had people actually call me saying, hey, it's been 3 days, get something else out there. And, you know, if we want any information, we have to go to that. And, but I think sometimes information, I think we've seen in this village that information is harmful to a political career. The best thing to do is just go underground and
not say anything.
Have your
so-called
influencers tell different things.
This is the first. I think this is the first election that there were no debates, actually.
And that the village was made worse for that, because again, the best thing about a debate is that you have to tell the same thing to a big group of people. You can't tell one thing to one group and one thing to another. And I'm really kind of hopeful that people that have been elected, I am very, very hopeful.
I am very, very hopeful that the village over the next 2 years, okay, becomes a better place to live with less problems. And I'm going into this saying I would prefer not to sit there and have to mention, you know, what's going on in a derogatory way 2 years from now.
Well, and I think it's good if this is the place for debate where issues are brought. I hope that people don't attack it. I think that public discourse is important. I think that vetting opinions and having some disagreements is healthy. Not what's going on in Washington. That's not debate. Some of that's almost bordering on treason with what's going on there, or actually trying to create a bloodless coup. But here locally, I mean, you know, people have a right to know, people have a right to participate, and people most of all have the right to the truth. And I hope to
the truth will set you free.
Well, at some point, you know, like I said, there's some ideas I have with going before the legislature, or even getting some citizens initiatives going to get the transparency going, because you shouldn't have to make a public records request to get a copy of the budget. You shouldn't have to make a public records request to get copies of the minutes. You shouldn't have, and by the way, the draft minutes in the agenda, you shouldn't have to go dig through those, because that's still a draft. You want to see the approved signed minutes, because sometimes they are changed. You know, and that stuff, you know, we worked hard. I mean, we started out that way, then it kind of went slack for 4 years, then we got it back up, and you wanted it even tighter. And what happened? You come on, let's be honest here. This is a good time for you to end on this. You put a lot of transparency. I am very, very disappointed in the transparency that's occurred in the village of Palmetto Bay over the last 2 years. I think it's horrendous. I think it's awful. And some people should be held responsible for it. And it's funny, didn't we get attacked by candidate Mattson for having non-scientific surveys going out back when we were both up on that dais? But how
yeah, but I always consider nothing personal, but I always consider the source. And let's actually.
But how was that last survey that went out on the website? Was that a scientific survey?
I don't think so. Anyway, so Tommy, how do I sign out?
We sign out by thanking Recovery Law. If you have any issues with your homeowner's insurance,
I'm getting a message from
the voices in your head are talking. Put that tinfoil hat back on.
Michael Miller, I think he wants to say goodbye too.
Come on in. We have to go hang the sweater back.
You guys. Anyway, so don't forget, next week I'm going to have Frank Guymere and Alice Bravo on the show. Thursday at 4 o'clock. Thursday at 4 o'clock. I'll be off for 2 weeks because it will be Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, and then on the 7th of January, believe it or not, I'm going to have Carl Sturge. Carl Sturge happens to be the president of the Howard Palmetto Quarry League, and we're going to be talking about the Quarry League and how kids can get involved, and he's been involved in a whole bunch
they
of different
can come back
sports.
because remember what happened? We Broncos and everything.
Yeah,
else
no more except for soccer, which soccer's good.
Well, the problem with soccer, let me just be real quick about that one. Is
You're never real quick.
No, soccer's the number one sport. And if everybody did the number one sport, you'd never reach 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I'm very proud of my efforts at girls softball. And
I love girls softball.
And so, but that was a niche we had to do. Pinecrest was doing soccer. We did girls softball. I took some shots for that, but I think it's always been very good. And I want to see this softball program continue. It's scholarship for girls. Girls get a lot of scholarships, and it's a lot of education for that.
And a couple of people that got scholarship. We know somebody in common that actually they won the College World Series up at FSU.
How's that football team doing?
Yeah, let's not talk about that.
But anyway, I want to
ups and downs in college football.
I want to thank you for your time there.
Hey, I really want to thank you for being my first guest. I mean, this is great. This is perfect.
It was fun.
I had somebody else that I bumped so you could be my first guest, and he was not happy about it.
All warm and fuzzy.
He was just not.
But people don't realize we're not attached at the hip. You and I have had plenty of conflicts. You and I
a lot.
We're not exactly drinking buddies. I
don't think I've ever had a beer with you.
No, I don't think so either.
No.
So, I think we both worked hard. We found that we were united in our efforts to do good for the village.
I think the difference between now and then is, to be a little egotistical, is our agenda was always for the residents. And that's not what the agenda is in today's day and age.
No, it's about the next step in politics up there.
But I don't want to end it. I don't want to end it on a negative note. I want to end it on a positive note, saying hopefully today they'll get approval for the vaccine, and people will start getting vaccines, and my mom will be able to get out of the ALF and start going shopping again, and everybody will be safe and happy.
I'll keep my family on the magic no COVID thing, including my mom, bless her heart.
And the economy will come back. And it was just a leap in the history of the world.
And instead of going out to a spreader event at the village, my current blog that's out there is I've got on there about the top 20 A Christmas Carol. And I suggest get out there and binge watch if you can find them on Netflix or whatever. Oh my God. Yeah, Mom, we're going to bed. Don't worry. Turn out the light. Oh my God.
Okay, see, we're going. Hold on, wait. Michael, hold on. Michael's here. Michael Miller saying, get off the air. Okay. Tommy, let's end it.
What was that Danny Don that used to sing at those Monday Night Football? Turn out the lights.
Okay, everybody. Thank you for watching us. Don't forget next week at 4:00. I hope you've enjoyed the show. Remember, if you want me to answer emails, write them. I'm more than happy to answer them. No question is too stupid.
Hey, David, mascot.
Just the answer.